everyone, today I thought I would share something a little bit different with you. I've always been a scrapbooker but have been a bit reluctant to share my process videos on YouTube simply because I don't edit my videos, so I do it completely off the cuff, and I think I like to spend a bit more time scrapbooking, so I was worried about the length of the video. I'm going to give it a go and see how we go, but basically what I wanted to do, first of all, I've pulled out all the supplies that I think I'm going to use. I'm working on an 8x8 album, which means that it's a sort of double page spread. I tend to try and make them double pages as much as possible, but the photos may not necessarily relate to each other. So I'm going to talk you through all the supplies that I've pulled out, and then I'll show you the first 8x8, and for the sake of the length of the video I'll do the second 8x8 separately using the same sort of supplies. So this is the photo I'm going to start with, and I've pulled out a couple of papers which are 12x12. So this is going to be one of my background pages, and it comes from the craft stall paper pack that I purchased just from one of the sort of cheap variety stores, and this paper also came with it. The double-sided paper is quite thick and sturdy, and I'm actually going to keep this aside to potentially cut out some of these tags and add it to each of the pages, and then this will be my background, and this will be the background of the other page that I'm going to make. But I'm going to start with this background, so I'll put the other two aside for now. I've also got a 6.5 by 6.5 paper pad from Craft, which is their kaleidoscope collection, and I've just pulled out a couple of different papers for that I'm interested in using, and there's also a cut apart sheet there. I've got some journaling cards from that same collection, the Craft kaleidoscope, but I don't want any other pages there, so I'm just going to put that pad back. I've got myself some fabric stickers from American Crafts. So they are, I can't see, chipboard ladder stickers. I was looking, doll, in like a lemony sort of colour. Also have some enamel dots, which I thought might coordinate with the collection, and just a variety of rub-on stickers and embellishments that I could potentially use later. So if I use them, I will let you know exactly the brand that I'm using. I've also got some mist, which I'm going to actually add to the white background for the next layout, but it's out and ready to go, and my adhesives are ready to go as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it's an 8x8 layout, is I'm actually going to trim my paper, just open up my trimmer, down to an 8x8 size, and I'm working upside down today, which I don't normally do when I'm scrapbooking. I'm quite confident doing it when I'm card making, but scrapbooking is going to be a new challenge for me, so we'll see how I go. Basically I just want to trim this paper down to an 8x8. Just trying to figure out which way it needs to go on the photo. I actually want it to sort of grey out there, so I need to trim that piece off. Yeah, so I actually have to work upside down. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll be able to cope with working upside down. So I just want to check the placement of the photo, so I'm actually going to have it coming out from this corner and those rays to come out in the opposite direction. So the next thing I'm going to do is have a look at these papers that I've pulled out that are going to back my photo a little bit. Now I quite like that green, but it's a slightly different green, and I wonder whether I use it to matte the photo and then just use a bit of different papers to build behind that. I'm not sure I like that blue. Thinking maybe this one and this one. So I'm going to mount my photo to that. Now, depending on how I'm feeling on the day as to whether I use a tape runner or I use double-sided tape. Obviously double-sided tape is more economical, but at the same time a tape runner just is a lot quicker. So I've got both out on my desk, and you'll probably see me grab for both throughout this process video. that down, and I keep all of the scraps because they may come in handy when coordinating, and I didn't trim that very straight. So I'm just going to get my scissors and try and straighten that up. I tend to only use my trimmer on bigger pieces, but yeah, I did grab for it then and wasn't very successful. I find this trimmer tends to be good for the thicker cardstock, but when it comes to the thinner pieces of paper, it sort of does leave a little bit of a rough edge. So what I'm actually going to do is have this sort of a strip that way. So I'm actually just going to go in with my scissors and trim across. So I'm going to have that sort of sitting under there, and then this one will be more of a block that comes this way. I'm thinking maybe on this side. I'm just trying to decide which part of that paper I would like. I think it's going to be this one here, and because there's no lines on the paper naturally, I will go for my trimmer to try and give that a bit of a neater look. See, it's a bit thinner, so it tends to kind of leave that rough edge on the paper. So I just go along with the scissors, and that's a brand new blade, it's just a thin paper and it doesn't seem to cut it very well. So keep that scrap for later. And I think let's send this one over the top. Just deciding how to layer that up. Okay, quite happy with that at the moment. Now, I pulled this paper out not because I like the blue, but because I thought it might be actually nice to cut out the doily here and add it to the edge of the page. So I might just trim around that at this stage. Now, these paper pads do actually have 2 of each with the Kaiser Craft. So yeah, if you decide that actually I really wanted that as a full sheet, there is another one in there. So I'm thinking I quite like the look of that, and I think it'll work out okay when I actually do trim it out neatly. So I'll just leave it there for now, just working on the layout sort of thing, and I don't commit to too much until I've made some decision. So that piece is sort of similar to that one. I think I might leave that journaling card to use on the opposite page. I picked this one out for this side that matches with that text, and again I think it's going to complement the opposite page well, so I'll pull that aside. I thought this might be good for some journaling, and I'm just trying to decide what I might do with that. And there's also this polka dot green on the other side, but having already 2 greens on the page, I don't want to add another green, predominantly green thing, but I'm thinking I may use this for a little bit of journaling somewhere, so I'll leave that one there. And this one is also another journaling card, and because I've decided I'm going to use that journaling card, I think I'll leave that for the other page as well. And I'm not sure about that one, so I'll leave that there. The cut apart sheet, I've really picked it for this quote here, which is going to match my other photo, so at this stage I'm not going to use that either. And so the next step in the process is to start committing to some papers. So I'm just going to still not happy with the quality of that edge there, so I'm just going to trim that up a little bit more, and just going to send it down that corner a little bit further, make sure it's nice and even. I might go all the way to the edge with this one, and then my photo down. Just decide where I want that placement. I think we'll pop it over this way a little bit more, and then I need to go in and trim up this doily, which is going to be a little bit fiddly, but we'll see how we go. So this is probably one of the reasons I tend not to scrapbook on camera, is because I don't edit, and therefore anything that I do which is a little bit more fiddly tends to have to be done on camera. But one of the things that I guess the reason I decided to do this was just to sort of share with you my process for scrapbooking, but also to you know, give you a chance to sort of see an 8x8 as well. So I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, and they either do Project Life or they tend to do the 12x12 pages, and I don't see a lot of 8x8 pages. And I find that, you know, for someone who's quite time poor, the 8x8 pages can actually be a little bit less overwhelming than a 12x12. So it's something that I can sit down and kind of get achieved in, you know, usually about half an hour or so, or I can come back and embellish later once I get the sort of layers down. So I tend to go through the process of pulling everything out, so all of the papers and my decisions about what I was going to include or potentially include on the page was made last night when I had a little bit of time, so maybe sort of 20 minutes, half an hour to go through my supplies and make some decisions about colours and things. And then tonight I'm sitting down and actually putting it together, and that's normally my process for the 8x8 pages, because it doesn't take too long if you've got all the supplies out and decided what you're going to include. But yeah, it can take a little bit longer for me for my process for a 12x12. So what I'm going to do, I'm quite happy with that, and I think I'm going to use the double-sided tape, and then I've got some very low sort of foam squares here that I'm going to just give a little bit of dimension as it sits over that photo. So rather than adhere it flat, I'm just going to give it a little bit of dimension and just decide whereabouts that's going to go. And, I like that little bit showing at the bottom there. Okay, just going to stick that down a little bit more. So I tend to leave the corners up a little bit until I decide where everything else is going to go. And now I'm going to start to think about my title. So my journaling card, just wondering whether I tuck it in here. I'm having to split this out a little bit. So I think I'm going to trim this journaling card a little bit. I don't have a lot of journaling for this card, and so to make it look nice and even, I've got my corner rounder, and I'm just going to go in, and probably don't need to round that corner because I'm going to tuck that in. Again, one of the reasons I tend to use trimmers wherever possible is I don't cut straight. So I'm going to actually include it there somewhere, and I'm just wondering with this whether I kind of poke those butterflies out the top there. So I might trim this down. And again, I'll just put this scrap off to the side, and I'm thinking I'm going to tuck it in there somewhere, and then I will embellish to cover that straight edge across. So let's commit, let's just do it rather than thinking about it too much. I'm trying to get this video done quickly, so let's just not be hesitant, straighten that up. And if I was doing this off camera at this stage, I would think about adding my journaling now before I actually stick this down, just so that I don't have to journal on the page in case there's embellishments in the road and all of that sort of stuff. But I will embellish after I finish recording. I will journal after I finish recording the video, so that's absolutely fine. Now I'm actually starting to think perhaps I need a little bit of washi tape here, but I haven't really pulled out any washi tape or thought about what washi tape I could use. So that's a little bit tricky, but and I have a lot to actually go through and choose from, so perhaps it's not best to do it on camera. Just having a quick look around to see what I can find, and I'm thinking I do have some washi tapes up here on my shelf, excuse my hands, that might fit this purpose. So, and this is sort of, you know, my process. I pull a few things out and figure out where I think I'm going with it, and then I decide that actually no, I've changed direction and I'm going in a completely opposite way to what I decided. And I quite like that washi tape with the butterfly. That will help me pull together this layout. So I think I'm going to go ahead with that, and I'm going to put washi tape down in 3 areas where I feel like I'm going to embellish at the end. Just going to tuck this piece under my photo and off the page, like so. This one is going to come down here. I'm going to form a bit of a triangle around this photo to kind of draw your eye to the photo. Now, this washi tape is quite transparent, so you are going to see the layers underneath, but hopefully by the time we embellish over the top of that, you won't really notice the busyness going on underneath. And last place is down in this bottom corner. Okay, so that's kind of where I sort of get up to, and then I start thinking about, okay, where am I going to put my title? What is my title going to be, which I haven't thought about for this particular photo, and where can I then sort of embellish? So I've chosen my 3 spots of embellishment, so this really leaves only this area up here for my title. And so I had pulled out these thickers, which are fabric thickers, and I quite like these, but I'm just not sure whether it's going to stand out particularly well on this background, potentially. And I guess it's deciding what the title's going to be. And I'm thinking I might start and work my way backwards, and I'm just trying to decide now whether I go with capital letters or lowercase letters in this, and I think we're going to go with capital letters. And I picked these thickers up on sale at Spotlight, and they were $2, or actually I think it was 20% off $2, so they were sort of reduced to clear, and as reduced as I've ever seen thickers anywhere. And so I did pick up a couple of packets of these, so this is the first time I'm using them, but I do really like them. So you know, you sort of hold on to those things and think, oh, I'll wait for the perfect project. Actually, I'm spelling the wrong word, doing it all upside down. That's the first word, so let's start with the second word and we'll go from there. Try this one. Now try not to stick them down until I'm ready to kind of say, yes, I'm happy with that placement. And my title is going to say Family First, because we're at a family event, and yeah, we've got photos of a lot of the couples in the family, and it was sort of like a pre-Christmas do that we were attending. Yeah, and I have very fond memories of that day, so I'm going to call this one Family First. Just looking for F, there we go. Always get a little bit lost with the stickers that have capitals, and then what I'm going to do is look at where in this setting, like where we can line this up. And what I'm thinking actually is that we might go onto the photo. So I might start with, normally I work backwards with the letters, but I'm thinking I'm going to try working forwards and seeing how I go. And I won't stick them down very well at all until I'm happy with exactly where each letter belongs. Spelling the second word out now. Yeah, so just give it a tiny push. Got our M's down here. Now I find with these fabric stickers they seem to do a little bit of running, so you'll see the lines down some of them. So that M, for example, has a line down. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but I think it just gives it a little bit more character, so I don't mind that look. And that's exactly where I was hoping that Y would line up, so I'm quite happy with that placement, I think. And we're going to commit. Oh, except this one, which is a little bit crooked. Again, I find it quite tricky upside down to make sure everything's lined up, and usually I lean my head over the top to make sure of that. So I will keep these stickers out because I'm thinking I might use them on the next layout as well, I'm not sure. Or I might change stickers, pick a similar font or a slightly different colour depending on how that background turns out. But I was worried the yellow wouldn't show up enough on this background, but it seems to be showing up fairly well, so I'm quite happy with that. Then we move on to the embellishments. So I've got some word stickers here from Amy Tan, which I think I might use. Probably not the turquoise. And these word stickers are fantastic because there's actually 4 of each. So there's 4 colours, sorry. The sheets are exactly the same phrases, but there's 4 colours. And then there's 2 of each colour as well. So I try to use up as much as I can before I sort of jump into the second sheet, so I tend to only pull 4 out at the time, more to decide what colour and things like that. So there's a bit of pink on this one, so I'm thinking maybe the pink. There is that little bit of blue turquoise there, but it's a slightly different one to this one, so I'm thinking probably not that one. Could potentially use the grey. I don't think the orange is a good fit, so it'll probably be a choice out of those 2. But it turns out the concerns about the length of my last video were valid, and I ran out of space to finish recording the video. So when we sort of last left, I was going through some embellishments, so I went and had a bit of a look through some more embellishments, and I wasn't happy with what I had pulled out. So I actually went back into my stash and grabbed a couple of extra things. So I've got this collection from Kaiser Craft called Happy Snaps, and I was really looking for some cameras in this, so it has a variety of things, but there's a few cut apart sheets in there. So I actually grabbed out these 2 pink wood grain cameras, which will pick up on the pink with the butterflies, and I only had 2, so I kept this kit come and say cheese. And then I also grabbed out some flare badges from a brand called Mercy, which is available at Big W. So I just picked out the camera one that's going to match with the camera motifs. I've got some butterflies because that also ties in and picks up on that turquoise, and I've also got a pink doily to kind of tie in with this doily as well. So I've chosen those, and now what I'm going to do is place them where I think they should go. So I actually want this one to go with this one, this flare badge to go with this little embellishment, because the camera's quite small here, so I want it obvious that there's camera motifs there. So I'm thinking I'm actually going to use this and potentially put the flare badge there. I'm going to use mounting squares to give that a little bit of dimension. Again, they're not really thick, so it'll only give it a small amount of dimension. And really only have a little bit of embellishment left to do anyway, so it's fine that I did run out of video, but probably wasn't the ideal time. And these are already have sticky backs on them, so that can just go there like that. The same with these cameras, I actually do want them to have some dimension, so I'll just put the squares on there now. Now, the decision to put which camera where is simply based on the space that there is to embellish. So of course with the smaller camera, I'm going to put it where the smaller space is, and just consider it in the placement of that sort of flare badge as well. Because I've already got pink up here, I want this pink to go where there isn't sort of a great deal of pink. So it would normally be down here with the doily, but I actually want the butterflies to appear somewhere else and not right next to these butterflies up here. So I'm going to go with the bigger camera down here, and I'm just placing that lightly so I can make some decisions about where that will be. And I think that flare badge maybe next to it, just checking. Actually no, I think the camera there and the flare badge covering up that gap. Not quite, maybe just below the camera, so that you can see that top bit of the camera there. And then the same thing with this one, where I'm going to put them there together so I can get the placement exactly where I want it. And I'm thinking same kind of thing, the flare badge sort of closer to the photo, actually maybe even a little bit further down. I just don't want that green gap to show, which is right next to that doily, but I'm just going to have to deal with that, I think, because I'm not going to get it any better than that with all of the sort of embellishments. But you can see there's sort of 3 clusters of embellishment there. And then I'm just going to have a think about these stickers. So that pink is quite bright, and I'm thinking there's a lot of sort of different tones of pink already going on the page, so I think that this would be a better option. So let's get together. Considering it was a family event, I think that's probably going to be appropriate, but it's not going to fit across there, so it might be a better option over here somewhere. Don't know that I like it across any of it. Maybe under here. It might be a bit too long, that one, which is a bit of a shame because the actual wording is fantastic. Just looking at the other options. Remember, this is a little bit shorter, so I'd like for this to kind of sit right on the edge of the page there. I think that one will work. We can just trim that little edge off. I really want to make that let's get together work, so I'm going to go back to it and consider how I might be able to pull this stuff up, if I can, and rearrange this placement a little bit. Try not to destroy the embellishments completely. Just pull one off, that's okay. Okay, so maybe if I lay this there as a first step, and then I can play around with the placement a little bit more. Yep, that works for me. And then we need one more down here that will fit in this section. And I'd like the frame around it, so fun, fun, fun. You're my fave. I think Thank You, Make Me Happy is a little bit too long. So I think You're My Favourite, that's too long as well. Just need it to be a little bit shorter. Maybe if I trim it down, I reckon I can trim that down. So just trim the edges off. These stickers are so versatile. As you can see, I've used a lot of them, particularly the turquoise, because it's one of my favourite colours. And just straighten that up. Okay. So I'm just going to turn this over and trim off this little bit that's on the other side. And I think just to finish off, just a couple of enamel dots. So it's a decision about what colour enamel dots I want to go with. Now, I had yellow pulled out because I thought maybe with this sort of yellow, but we've got a lot of different tones going on, so I don't think yellow is going to work. I'm wondering about these sort of lime greeny ones to tie in with the background, and I think that that will work as long as I don't put them directly onto the background because they're a different colour again, but I think that will kind of pull that yellow and that green together. So I'm going to go just a little cluster around here somewhere. So that one down here somewhere, and maybe another one. That dark photo, it's actually showing up too much, but if I put it all the way onto photo, that will work. Going to go one. Oh, they do tend to not stick until you push them down, and I don't want to commit until I'm happy, so they tend to come off a fair bit. I might put a little one here and another one there, so just kind of spreading it around the embellishments. One there, one over here, and one up the top here. So I might put that one on the photo. There we go. Okay. I'm quite happy with that layout. I'm going to leave it there. I'll do my journaling after I stop recording, but you'll see the next layout video I share with you will actually be the opposing page, and I always keep this in the background so that I can actually see the opposite page. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this process video. I apologise that it came in 2 parts, but yeah, please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed watching the scrapbooking process video, and I'll aim to do more in the future. Thanks for watching.